Welcome back. That was an insightful session based on impact mapping by Nagesh Shah. Over to the second session of the track 2, and this session is by Chandan Lal Patari. Let me quickly introduce Chandan Lal Patari. Chandan Lal Patari is working as an enterprise transformation lead and change agent. He is the author of the famous books The Agile's Guidebook and the Scrum Master Guidebook. Chandan has approximately 2 decades of information technology product development experience. He has been researching organizational development and transformation for a decade. He has worked with startups and large companies like GE Medical System, Honeywell, ABB, and Royal Dutch Shell. His focus areas are organizational transformation and business agility, correlation with people leadership, and the impact of all this into organizational growth. He has supported organizations to deal with many complex problems and remain relevant to the business. Coached and trained several hundred leaders, Agile team members to achieve agility at the personal and the team level, resulting in better productivity improvement and outcome. Today, he is going to present on the topic Descaling Organizational Complexity to Expedite Product Delivery. Over to you, Chandan.
Hello. Yeah. Am I audible? Visible? My screen is desktop is also visible, right? To all?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you very much for giving me opportunity to share my thoughts. So these thought came while conversation with many enterprise coaches. Like whenever we start our agile coaching journey or enterprise agile coaching journey, these questions comes like, as an agile coach, what kind of impact we can bring, and what are the way we can measure our impact. So from that dimension, this thought came in my mind, like whenever we started about the organizational transformation, this complexity element comes into picture. And as an agile coach, how well we understand those complexity dimension and play around with this complexity dimension to bring value for the organization. So that's how this thought evolved. And today I do see that like most of my agile coaches, friends, colleagues are actually dealing with this complexity, and they are actually coming out with innovative solutions to deal with this organizational complexity. And at the end of the day, why are we dealing with the organizational complexities? At the end of the day, all of us, we exist because of the product and solution. The product and solution, when they are successful, we are also successful. So that's why there's a correlation between the organizational complexity versus the product and solution we are dealing with. So to start the presentation, we go to the next one. Challenge. Okay. So my journey started with most of my work is with the product development organization. So I spent significant amount of time with different types of products. Started with the GE Medical System, where I worked for 4 years with this. This is the product I worked for 4 years, and it's quite complex product. Like usually it is available in any ICU or MICU or anywhere. If you go in a hospital, you will be able to see this. This is to really measure the vital parameter of any patient. I worked 3.5 years for this product, and it's quite complex project, complex product. It involved many different modules, technology, and at that time we were actually working with 3 different countries. So when I share such type of parameters, it actually injects the complexity part, like the dynamics is required to really build such a complex product. So after this, I moved into Honeywell Aerospace, and I worked on actually one of the products in Honeywell. It is called Enhanced Ground Proximity Warning System. So this is the system which every pilot uses to maneuver the aircraft. So whenever aircraft moves, this particular system guides the pilot to really go through a different kind of terrain, different kind of buildings. So that's also another complex system. And I worked with Boeing 787, Airbus A380 for around actually 4.5 years. And pretty complex product, because it actually interacts with many parameters. So the one you might be knowing that the complexity complexity dimension defined by the parameters the particular systems deals with. So more and more the parameters it has to deal with, the complexity increases. And of course, the IT or software solution is actually to minimize this complexity and really help the human beings to really simplify the life. And this software product is also a quite complex product. So I worked 4.5 years there, and then I again joined in ABB, Industrial Automation Division. So whatever you are seeing here is called Power Automation product, and this is also a large-scale product. Usually, individuals don't buy it. Usually by the say KPTCL, Karnataka Power Transport Corporation Limited, or large-scale grid, they buy such kind of complex solution. And this solution also actually it gives a complete visibility about the power flow of a region or a zone. So from this control room, which is actually available in Majestic in Bengaluru, if you go there, there is a control room which can actually show us entire Karnataka, what is the power inflow, what is the power outflow, how much power they are purchasing. So, but apparently it looks easy, but it deals with many different interconnected systems, and those interconnected systems are seamlessly able to transfer those data to create that such kind of visual image where the control room people can make a right decision, like where should I do load shedding, which particular VIP area should be shut down, and if they shut down, what is the consequence. So like we say, the dynamic decision can be done some kind of situation with this system. So whenever we deal with, or whenever we think about any product and solution, it itself deals with many diversified systems, and it fetches the data, and that's how the complexity increases. More and more complex the products are, its value also increases, because complexity has a direct correlation with the value. Like a simple MRI machine, it's a very complex system. It has a physics, it has a chemistry, it has so many things involved, and price starts from more than 1 crore to 10 crore, that kind of system. So it's a very complex solution, but to build such a system, it takes years of effort. A lot of diversified, talented people work together. Now, when assuming hypothetical scenario, if you are agile coach for such a MRI system, just to give an example, the kind of complexity we have to deal with, the kind of complexity we need to really think through to really optimize such a solution. Because at the end of the day, every organization is expect from an agile coaching engagement or any kind of organization transformation engagement is, how can I simplify those complexity? What are the things or what are the steps we can do as agile coach which can actually increase the product delivery timeline or actually help the business to really flourish? So these questions keep hovering in our mind, right? So the question is, what problem we are solving? Whenever agile coach, especially the enterprise agile coach, where they are at certain seniority level, where they engage for a certain transformation, what kind of questions they look for it? Like whenever they start their engagement with any organization, what kind of questions we should look for, right? So every organization today measure or define by such kind of parameters. So I'm sure you must be aware, like such kind of questions keep coming, like what is the speed of the delivery, right? Whenever we engage in any kind of assignment for any particular product line or any particular products or any particular enterprise solutions, the dynamics of the questions usually asked is speed of the delivery. What is my current speed of delivery? What is the lead time? What is the failure rate? Like how frequently this application is going down, and how frequently the application has to really undergo major overhaul. So this kind of questions are the indicators, like what kind of complexity the team or the organization or the teams of the teams are dealing with, right? Recovery speed, like how much time team is spending to really get out of those kind of typical scenario. Application downtime. What is the current user base? Like, okay, I have developed a feature, but who is using this feature? How much? How many? So those kind of questions are actually something to introspect, because this is how our validation comes. Because we as the enterprise agile coach, we are dealing with actually organizational different elements. In upcoming slide, I'll tell about what are the different kind of elements. But these are some of the questions usually we ask ourselves before we start any engagement. Like it could be a team coaching, it could be a team of team coaching, or it could be like a department coaching, or it could be a business line coaching. You may be responsible for coaching a particular business line. So first, a couple of the questions comes to your mind when you start this engagement is, what are those parameters? What is the answer of these parameters? So it gives you an idea what is the as-is state of that context or of that business. So you will see the layers of complexity, because when you try to find this data, when you try to collect this data, it will give you some kind of insight, like, okay, what kind of coaching, what kind of technical coaching, what kind of business coaching, what kind of leadership coaching, what kind of enterprise coaching perhaps you need to do to improve some of these factors. At the end of the day of your coaching engagement, you need to always think about that, what validation I am bringing from all those factors. That is very important. Because when I talk about the organization complexity, this dimension, these are all the actually impact. You will be seeing that, like, if the organizations are too complex and not able to manage their dynamics properly, it has a resultant effect into the deliverables, into the delivery. So some of this thing will reflect here. Some of this reflect in a failure, some of this thing will reflect in a customer satisfaction. In some of the other format, the symptom will show, and we need to collect those symptoms to start the journey. So you are seeing these are some of the things, like it indicates the speed or security or latency of the system. These are some of the indicators. So it gives us a clue the as the state of the organization maturity or organization agility. And our course of action starts from here. What thought comes to your mind? Have you seen such type of pole? It's electric pole. Have you seen such kind of pole? So perhaps you might have seen in some of the towns such kind of poles are there. Now you are the electrician, and there are some faults happening in this pole. You are the electrician, and you need to fix it. So what will be the situation? Where to touch? Where to start? Do you know where the power flows are happening? What is happening? So just hypothetically envision that kind of scenario, like you are an enterprise agile coach engaged in a particular project or in a product line or some business unit where you have been asked to show improvement, asked to change something which can improve the product delivery or whatever the parameters they are. So you need to touch this junction box now. So how you will start the journey? So that's something to retrospect. That's something to retrospect, like from where you will start. Where is that blueprint? Where is that design chart through which you can start the journey to really fix some of this line? Should you really completely eliminate this pole and establish a new pole? That is also possible. Should you really fix some of the line because it's working fine? Why to disturb some of the portion only we need to change, right? So sometime as an agile coach, we come across such kind of scenario where the complexity dimension, I will tell, the complexity really create us to think different, think innovative, because that's the value proposition comes. Like when we as a coach start engaging ourselves with such kind of organization transformation, our value proposition comes through this observation, how well we are observing those factors which is actually significantly creating a bottleneck for the organization. So this is something to think about. Complexity, you cannot completely eliminate the complexity. That's what I have seen. The most enterprise, like which has matured over a period of time, they have a large customer base and supposed to really manage huge customer base with a huge legacy base with a huge multiple different version of the software which is running into the system. You can't just change it at a one time, but we have to do something, right? We are here as an enterprise agile coach to bring value, right? So where should I start? Like complexity will be there, and complexity has a different layer. So how well we are able to understand those complexity dimension to help the organization. That's the key message here. That's the key pointer here. And you know that's Conway's law, right? Because it is a reflection of your organization structure, the way people communicate, the way people interact. It reflects into the product and solution. So should we do anything about that? The way the current structure has been set up, how the current structure is enabling the individuals, enabling the organizations to really rapidly build product and solution. So that is something to think of. So when I talk about the complexity, any product, like say I worked on a medical system domain, I worked on an aerospace domain, I worked on a banking domain, I worked on an oil and gas domain. Every domain is driven by certain factors which they can influence, but they cannot influence. They will be influenced by those factors. Like say these are the factors, right? Some of the factors are political in nature, some of the factors are market driven. Like pandemic you cannot control, but pandemic has its own impact into the organization, their sales, their product development, it has its own impact, and we need to consider those impacts. Social engineering, right? The way society is changing, the way society's expectation is changing, the way product has to be built, the speed it has to take, the way it has to be penetrated into the market, right? So those data points. Why do we collect all those points? Because they influence in the organizational complexity. They influence because your product features and your product development mechanism is directly influenced by some of these factors. The technology, the way the technology innovation is happening. Should we just ignore the technology aspect? Should we just forget about the new technology which is introduced into the market? How would the adoption rates of kind of things? If I don't adapt, if I don't know, if I don't recommend to my coaching team, what will be the impact, right? The law, like the regulatory law. Like worldwide, the regulatory, if I'm in banking domain, I have to be very careful which country I'm operating in. If I'm working in Africa, if I'm operating in Brazil, if I'm operating in USA, and if I'm operating in India, all the contexts are different, the regulatory requirements are different. And the regulatory requirements significantly impact our feature, our delivery speed, because RBI say by 3 months this kind of GST rule has to be rolled out. So some organization who is supporting this has to rapidly work on that. So again, this condition is coming, right? And the global situation, right? The global climate, global situation, they all directly, indirectly gives the opportunity or create impact to some of the other business. So these are the factors which influence our product development. And as an agile coach or enterprise agile coach, we do analyze such kind of factors when we work with the product manager, when we work with the business leaders, because they influence. And if we ignore these factors, if we ignore this thing, the complexity dimension we are ignoring. So they create influence in our coaching style. So this is something to really know about some of the complexity elements which organizations undergoes. Always these currents are sometimes visible, not visible, but it is organization is actually influenced by all those factors. Question is, what can I do? Okay, what do I do? Okay, I know it, I have read it. Now what do I do with all these things? That's the questions which you are asking. By consciously knowing all those aspects, is there any value addition I can bring into it? And what kind of current challenges our organization is going through? This is something to look upon, right? So, by definition, if you theoretically go into it, what are the different elements? Like when I engage in any organization, there are vertical complexity, there are horizontal complexity, there are spatial complexity. These are the complexity, and we need to measure it. Like it could be the number of layers in organization. How many layers? How many layers are there in organization? How many different departments are there in organization? Because a particular product may be traversed through with many such layers. Those layers could be a bottleneck, these layers could be a barrier, these layers could be a blocker. So should I consciously find those? Should I really ignore those? Or should I really break those barriers by consciously working on those things? So this is something to think about. Whenever we talk about the organization complexity, especially the product development speed, these factors is always comes into picture. How consciously we note down all those things, how consciously we talk about all of those things, and how consciously we openly take some action with creating a workforce. That is something what we do as an enterprise coach, right? Complexity dimension. Some other direction, that the variation of the products, the variation of the services. Now the conflicts among the department, the reward and recognition within the organization. So now I am talking about the organization culture within the system, which can also potentially become a complexity element into product development, right? Bureaucratic hierarchy, organization structure. Strategies are not well defined, not well communicated, or abstract, or it is at the top but not coming down into the ground level, right? And the diversified team member in a multi-geographical location. So what, right? So what? This kind of questions asked. We usually ask, so what? So what? If I have a team member from the Germany, if I have a team member from the Bhutan, if I have a team member from the Bangladesh, so what? So there are elements which actually influence in our in the product development speed. So that's something to watch upon, right? Okay, distributed team is good because it's better to go to the location where the talents are available, but it has its own inbuilt limitation, right? Whenever you actually communicate with this kind of distributed team, there's a cultural barrier, there is a communication barrier, there's an understanding barrier, and it has a resultant effect into the code, into the test, into the deliverable. It has. So what can I do about it? Okay, I know it. So what? I know it. I have now learned it, and I do acknowledge this in my organization. These are exist. Now see, as an enterprise agile coach, what we do actually, we try to see that how those factors are influencing in my coaching, in my current operation, in my current way of operating, in my team, something like this. So something to think upon, like these factors significantly influence my delivery speed. It's not only just the feature, it's not only just the code, it is not only just the test, it's not only just the deployment speed. There are elements which are visible, there are elements which nobody talks. There are things which is elephants in the room, but nobody talks about it. But as a coach, when you talk about bringing value, bringing change, those kind of aspects will bring out and have a open conversation. So that's my message is all about so far. Because day by day in upcoming years, you will see this complexity dimension are increasing because the new elements will be introduced into the system. Now, what different thing we can value propose? There is already established models are there. There are frameworks. There are coaching models are available. Yes, they can guide us, but there are some other aspects where this model has to be planned and then really bring out this value through coaching, right? So this is something to think upon. So some of the factors actually which actually significantly create bottlenecks into the organization. So these are the factors. Like I have note down. I have actually put it into my in a radar list. Like these are the factors which significantly cause hindrance into the product development speed, irrespective of your domain. Say it's a retail or a telecom or say some regulatory domain like healthcare and aerospace. So every domain have their own space, but these factors actually influence in our decision making. Right? And I'm sure, I'm not saying something new, I'm sure you might have heard about it, you might have seen those. So these are the key factors which influence every organization, every team. If you are engaged in a team coaching, if you are engaged in a team of team coaching, these factors you will observe. Maybe in a granular level, maybe in a significant level. You will be observing. As a coach, we always build an observation coaching backlog, right? We create that coaching backlog. Our coaching backlog inputs are some of these elements. Now, some of these elements are significantly influence this model. So this is a very famous model. I'm sure you have read it in different forum, like if you go in a McKinsey, if you go in a any other organizations where they actually talk about the organization transformation, they come across these big factors. How well the structures are in place, how well process are in place, how well the people are in place, how well the technology in place, and the strategy around them. Of course, the leadership and the culture are the backbone for any organization transformation. And all those questions, all those factors, right? Flexible process, right? People in the bus, fail fast, self-organization, all those factors are actually embedded into these areas. Something to related to structural change, something to related to technology, maybe outdated technology you are using, and as a result of that, you are not able to rapidly change production feature. Could be possible. Could be possible. Or the people are outdated. They are not upgrading their knowledge, and they are not openly sharing about it. An organization is not at all talking anything about this. Could be possible, I'm saying. But all those factors, whatever is left hand side, it has a directly embedded into these pockets. And when we talk about the enterprise transformation, all those factors are actually embedded in these areas, and we think around this area. What can I do about structure? What can I do about people? What can I do about the technology? Is there anything I can do in a technological change? Is there any is the architecture is outdated? Is the architecture is not enabling the people to really rapidly productive solution? Or because of the architecture, there is a lot of production support issues are coming? Is there a case? So what I'm saying is actually it's all something to think about the complexity dimension coming from all those areas. And we as a coach think about it, talk about it, and have a conversation with the leadership team. Like, perhaps I think that there could be some issue. So something like that, we can have an open, positive dialogue with the team. Okay. Now going back to the next model. So I'm just trying to give you a different idea. According to me, this is what I could see. I may not be the right, I may not be correct, but what I have been seeing for over a period of time, these are some of the factors which really bothering me, which actually force me to think different. Okay, so you see, a customer has place an order. Say some regulatory changes come from some customer place, right? What I am seeing is actually some of the enterprise, the large enterprise, especially which has evolved over a period of, let's say, 100 years old, 150 years old, and there we have a lot of problems. Okay, now there's a requirement came. Okay, so it has hit into the first department. I'm telling them as a department or a kingdom named Bhalu. The Bhalu is a department where there is a kingdom where there are, say, 100, 200, 300 people are working. They're happily working on this thing. So, and they have got the requirement from the customer. They might be able to solve this problem, or may not be. So they realize, no, I can't solve this problem alone. So I need to interact with another department. So I am calling them as a Dhalu. Okay. So you see, organization like especially in enterprise, large enterprise, when there is a legacy are in place. So this kind of things you will be seeing that the customer requirement is flowing among the different departments, and expertise lying in a different area. Some may be specialized in a risk analysis, some may be specializing in a backend server, someone may be specialized in a front end area. So if the organization structure is like that, it will flow like this way. It has passed this information to another department called Halu. Right? And that's a separate department. When I say it's a kingdom, it has its own rule, it has its own culture, it has its own tribe, it has its own ways of working, and they have their own people. You might have heard this, they are their own people, right? So, okay. Now again, they could not solve this problem. They have been actually taking the help from the other department. It's called Alu, right? So what's happening? Customer is indefinitely waiting, and inside the organizations, though it is not visible from the outside, this cross collaboration is happening, which is reality sometimes, because when you solve the complex problem, you need to really talk around the departments, because the expertise is spread and the solution is so complex. And I've seen in organizations like where you need to really involve multiple departments to solve the complex problem, because the problem itself is so big. So there's nothing much you can do. But you see the flow. It's called business continuity flow, right? Like, so how long customer can wait? And whenever this kind of barriers are there, whenever this kind of communication channels are there, it takes its own time. It takes its own time. So what do I do? Yes, these kind of organizations are there. The large departments, and inside the department is so there's another department, and inside the department is so there are people. The people are not able to really communicate with the other people because the goals are conflicting. They are not able to support because they have their own commitment to fulfill. It's nothing to blame for that department. The department Bhalu has a one goal. He or she got the budget for do certain activities. But if he support Halu, he will not get the reward. So how organization reward system can enable such kind of collaboration to happen smoothly? Right? Something to think upon. Now the question is how rapidly such kind of initiative, such kind of feature development can happen by cutting across these multiple departments. So this is a hypothetical scenario. You might be seen it or you might be experienced it, as an enterprise agile coach, this is one of the factors you need to really look up on, like how many layers it has passed through. Okay, so let me talk about this another hypothetical scenario. There are the different business lines, right? Say there's a business A, right? There's a business A. And customer is again give some order, right? So business A, it's IT and business are different. You might come across this kind of scenario. The business IT are separate. Business really do not care how RT operate. IT is really in the mercy of the business because business fund them and they need to really obey by the order of the business. Like you might have seen such a scenario, like where there are different business performing from a different geographic location, and there are the IT department who is actually build product and solution. There are the support operation department which is actually again separate, and they have their own area, and there's the infra division, right? There's a large infra division, especially we are good at that, like infra management. So you imagine the scenario, each department is a big organization if it is enterprise. Now you see there are in the department also there are walls, right? These are the walls, and there are supermen, right? There are superwomen are there, which is always there. If you really find it, if you research it, you'll get it. There's a strong egoist person will be always there. Now what is happening for the people who has order? People give this order. So these are some of the barriers. These are the flow barrier. Like the flow cannot be maximized. You famous metrics, right? Lead time, cycle time, right? Lead time, cycle time. So what are those barriers? How can I break those barriers? These are thick walls, right? It cannot be eliminated just like that, right? So as an enterprise agile coach, when you analyze such kind of factors exist, and what do I do about it? Because I have my own limitation, right? That as every agile coach cannot really significantly talk about the structural change, role change, policy change, cannot talk, right? So what can I do about it, right? So this is something to think upon, right? What can I evaluate? Like by consciously studying about the organization behavior and organizational structure, can I really evaluate something? Is there any value proposition I can make here into the leadership team? Like I do see that this is the area we can really do something which can actually minimize this barrier, which can actually eliminate some of this blocker, right? So this is something to think upon. I'm sure you might have come across this kind of scenario. You are seeing it, and or maybe the gradients of the complexity is so high, it's not obviously visible, but someone has to really thoroughly analyze this kind of scenario, right? Then only you can talk about the time to market or speed to value, right? Time to market, speed to value, the management parameters, what we are seeing, or customer base expansion, right? Number of user expansion base or number of value generation per cycle. All those things is good, but when a team is or a team of team is actually get into some kind of organizational hindrance, right? These are all organizational impediments which is sometimes goes beyond the team's boundary. Team perhaps cannot do it. They go there and get a bang and come back, right? You might see that like product owner participation, product owner engagement, but the poor product owner, he is also representative of the business. Business is not allowing him to really come to that IT. That also could be a barrier, right? So those kind of barriers are actually really cause potential issue into our delivery cycle time, right? So this is something to really think upon, right? Something to think upon. So when you start actually analyzing those kind of things, so you can actually start asking this question, which will actually give you some idea, like what is the current process production flow? What is the current communication flow? What is the current timeline and travel distance? It will give you an idea. It will give you an idea where the flow has been interrupted, where the flow has been blocked. What do I do about the flow, right? You can ask these questions. What is the volume of this production service? What is the highest error? So these questions will give you some idea to find that root cause, to find that area where are actually the real bottlenecks are. It's like you are running X-ray machine or you are writing MRI machine, which is actually give you insight, which are apparently on the surface level is not visible. The problems is not visible, but through questioning, through observation, through data collection, you are actually able to interpret like what's happening inside the organization, which is visible, which is sometimes visible, sometimes not visible, something very difficult to really bring it out, right? So, and what do I do with this? What do I do with this? So you are in a hunt, you are in a search, you are actually figuring out, and these questions will help you to take some concrete action and quantifiably build a case to talk with the leadership team. These are the indicators. These are the indicators which can potentially tell us how well my product team is performing, how well my actually group of products are performing. And when I talk about the product manager, what do I talk? So I need a quantifiable analysis to really point something like this is not good. This is not good for what? What do you observe? What is your data point? What is your backing? So these kind of things will actually give you some clue about the organization for complexity, from process dimension, from people dimension, from structure dimension, from leadership dimension, from the structural dimension. Don't forget that diagram. Every now and then I keep about this diagram. This diagram is a handy. This diagram you can use every now and then. It's available in the McKinsey. It's available in every scaled version. What do you do about the people dimension? What do you do about the structural dimension? What do you do about the cultural direction? What do you do about the leadership? What do you do about the strategy around that? Because all those questions will lead you to there. And something you can control, something you cannot control. Now, what you see here is actually a kind of a role model organization, right? A role model organization. So what most of the organizations nowadays do, I'm sure you are already aware of it, organizations are making a small organization, a mini organization, which is kind of a startup, right? This is a kind of a department called Invoice. And it's a very small team, approximately say 150 member teams, and they have their own customer focused approach. They are customer obsession in this. Similarly, there's a small department, it's called account department, right? They have their own way of working. So here, what is the advantage of this here? It's very small. When you are small, your maneuverability is very high. You can collaborate much more faster because you need to deal with very few people. See, every of such a team has a tribe manager. Every of such team has a tribe. It's a small tribe which you can actually frequently talk about this because there's not many people. There is only 10-15 feature team, perhaps, or some a particular platform team which is actually supporting them, which is also maybe 100 member team. So this is like a descaling the organization structure and looking into the different roles which can actually enable such kind of collaboration to smoothly happen in a faster manner. So it's the ideal organization structure, and it's not ideal for last couple of years. You might be seeing from ING, every organization is getting into this descaling mode where organizations are actually slicing them down into end-to-end product value generation with a focus on that entrepreneurial mindset, right? So when you talk about the entrepreneurial mindset, your people's skill will change, your people role will change, and your recognition model will change, and even the entire operation model will change because it's called you build it, you run it. And that's most successful model actually nowadays available in every organization is trying to really embrace this model. Actually, this is the best way. Actually, even you know about this, like most of the modern social products are actually getting into this microservice organization, right? Where they actually break the big monolithic architecture into small microservices, and those microservices are built around this kind of squads or this kind of tribes, and these tribes responsible for end-to-end microservice management for maybe 5 or 10 microservices you manage, 5 or 10 microservices you manage. So it's a more efficient way of dealing with end-to-end management of a service. It's much more easier to manage this, much more easy to really enhance, upgrade those kind of services. It's very small, minor. So this kind of organization structure is actually helping the organizations to rapidly build product and solution by descaling the complexity. It's not easy, it takes a journey. So for that, you need to prepare the people, because people is the back. You need to look into the technology stack also, like is this technology is also supporting or not. So for that, you need to really coach the technology dimension. You need to look around the culture. If there is an open culture, if there is a people are really allowing you to change. If not, then what can you do? Can you take leadership support? You can talk about the current process. Is the current process the barrier? You need to simplify this process by actually making such kind of a fluid structure, right? And then app structure. And look at the leadership. As the leadership is supporting, if not supporting, can I coach those leadership to think in that dimension? And they help us to really optimize some of this flow, optimize some of this barrier in the organization structure, right? So this is a kind of an ideal, simple organization structure, which has its own purpose. Because everything is purpose driven, right? Like everything is purpose driven because our existence, like invoice department, existence has a purpose, and they generate those revenue, they expand the market, they actually ensure those customer obsession or customer satisfaction at the highest level. So every small department or a tribe has a purpose-driven, shared purpose. All the 150 members have one common shared purpose. Of course, there will be inter-team collaboration, and there are mechanisms, right? Like our release team really enable people to really connect the dots together into one room and really handle some of the complexity. when they bring all these people in a one room with a common mission, with a common goal, and ensure that all people are talking to that common goal, and ensure that they agree for a commitment, that itself is a one step towards solving the complex problem of the organization. It's a very, very good structural approach. It's a very good structural approach to really handle some of this organizational complexity which we have showed earlier, right? When all 120 people, 150 people are coming and talking around, like say, political issue or environmental issue or regulatory issue, and okay, fine, these are the problem. What do I do? Okay, they talk about the solution. So that's why it is very crucial for us to really enable this kind of platform through which people can talk, people can actually find a way to really solve this problem. Right. So this is another model, like what you can do as a coach, what you can do when you propose such kind of a organizational structure with the aligning with the common mission, the customer centricity is the key, and with a purpose. What are the things you can take an action? So ensure that like they are all interconnected. Yeah, coach for it. Let us coach for it so that all team members, 120 team members for the say 15 or 10 or 15 squad are actually aligning with this. That it's a flat structure, span of control is optimized. We actually coach the chapter manager how to help the people to really upgrade, improve, and scale, right? And we create that building learning organization, right? We create community. We ensure it drives properly. We measure those, right? So that at least it enables the people to really be ready for future. Right, that's very important. And then all other factors, right? Decentralization, ensure that decentralization is happening, the collaboration happening. So all those things is our coaching action. All these things we work for it, and all these things actually end result is optimize, simplify this large complex solution. Focus on those parts and really ensure those parts are talking to each other so that that whole system operates at the optimal level, right? Right. So these are some of the actions we can take to ensure our complexity can be addressed. Okay. And at the end of everything is coaching. Everybody is becoming coach nowadays, right? Leader is a coach, Scrum Master is a coach, people is a coach. So chapter manager is a coach. You see that all organizations are moving towards this coaching dimension, because coaching is all about like influencing and pursuing individuals for a common shared purpose, right? So and coaching helps us to really change those culture, change those people, and agile coach, we do not have to really tell it. We know it better than anybody else. Like how do our coaching journey goes? How do we ensure that my organization understands the way it has to transform, the way the change management has to bring in, right? So this is the approach we follow, and ensure that whatever we talk about the complexity, those complexity can be addressed. Maybe some structural change, maybe some people upgradation change, or maybe some process change, maybe some initiative around the cultural change. So it's anyway long journey. It takes approximately more than 1 year to 2 years, whatever I am talking about. Like but coaching helps. Like everybody is a coach. If the coach disconnect or coach disengage, but still in the organization there should be people who can actually coach and this should continue for the sustainability part. So how do I measure? Okay, I have been working in a particular product for say 8 to 9 months. So after I left, what is the impact? So we need to talk quantifiable. Nobody believes a coach. Because the coach can talk a lot, talk loud, talk in air, talk a lot of theory, right? And that's what sometimes we have been recognized. So until we show the quant benefit of those kind of engagement, nobody is going to invest on us in long run. So that's the problem. Even in pandemic we are seeing, right? I don't know if you are seeing that. In pandemic we need to show the value. We need to show the quantifiable value. So these kind of things we need to capture by working with the team members. Like, is there any improvement happening in this area? Is there any kind of change? Did we observe because of my engagement, because of my change, because of my coaching? Is there any small little movement happen towards the right direction or not? That is something to capture, and we need to capture it in a quantifiable model through tools, through mails, through some mechanism. Nobody trusts us. So until we show them like, okay, what value we are bringing in a quantifiable manner, otherwise they will not invest us. They invest on us because we need to show these benefits. So what are some more? So you see, this is the product expansion matrix. Like when product goes to the market, and if it is really operating, if it is really creating an impact in people's life, it will show into this format. Revenue increase, percentage profit share increase, new people onboarded, customer satisfaction. Some of these data points will actually indicate that our coachings are giving some kind of positive momentum into the organization. And if we don't connect this information, nobody believes in us. So So I actually talked about the complexity part. Like I talked about like what are the different dimensions of the complexity and how those complexity dimensions influence our coaching. And what can we do? Some workaround. And I am not given any suggestion or proposal. I give just a high level hypothetical suggestion. It could also be a option you can choose for it, but it's a very big change. It's a huge organizational overhaul. So whatever the suggestion I have given. So incrementally, you as a coach can really collect those data points, talk structurally, talk in quantifiable manner, and have a common dialogue, build a consensus among the coaches, and really try to address some of these complexity dimensions. Whatever is the as-is state was there right initially, and then you do some kind of a baby steps, and then see that there is a positive momentum is happening or not. And at the end, every moment you collect this information. This information is also end result of our coaching action. So this is my last slide. So, question for me. Any question?
Yeah. So, thank you, Chandan, for a really insightful session. And the topic was really good. We talked about not only at scaling at the organizational level, but also the coaching level also. The coaching levels also. It talked about the coaching spectrum, and it also talked about the various organizational models like home-way organizational model. So it was really helpful. We will now wait if we have any questions from the delegates. Yeah, so there is a few comments from the audience by Pratyush, that excellent session. Then Ido Parmungar, thanks for bringing this, Chandan. This session is mirror what happens in my organization. And then Ritesh also says, thanks, Chandan. And yeah, so many of the comments we have been seeing. But audience, do you have any questions?
It is complex. it is complex, and we are dealing with complexity. So
yeah. So yeah. So audience, what we can do? Thank you, Chandan. Audience can interact with you in the networking lounge. Sure. And this networking lounge is available for the next 1 hour. We will get back after 1 hour. This is a networking and break session. Okay, we have a question from Narayan Swami.
Okay.
How do we use different models? Can you share some contextual examples?
Okay, model. What model? That's what. Narayan, can you please elaborate the model, a coaching model, or what exactly is the model? Is this the organization structural model? So, I personally not use any model, but I do refer Scaled Agile framework, I do refer LESS framework, I do refer Spotify framework. So these are actually my guiding posts, and I do constantly refer the McKinsey site, like where it talks about the different organizational the transformation elements. So I usually collect those information, and then whatever I shared, right, with the observation backlog, I create the observation backlog around that. Of course, I'm sure you might be aware that the value stream mapping is the significant step which can actually give us the insight about the different blockers across the organization, different departments. So those activities, it actually give us a high-level ideas, like what should be my next course of action. And how do I proceed for my coaching journey? Because sometimes it could be team coaching, sometimes it could be leadership coaching, sometimes it could be the business coaching, because it will tell me which particular area to zoom in and then really figure it out my next course of action. So as such, I'm sorry I could not give you any model, but what usually I do for the last 5-6 years, I'm working on different organizations. So I do this research on myself and really try to see what bring out best in this situation.